Greetings, brothers and sisters. I'm Professor Spira, and I wanted to do a quick commentary on Arnold Ehret and Steve Jobs, Ashton Kutcher, and this big misconception that Arnold Ehret was all about a very strict raw food program or a very strict raw fruitarian program, fruit diet. Now, unfortunately, many people to this day interpret or misinterpret Ehret's message to mean this kind of radical, no transition. And I'm always surprised as if people didn't read the same book as I read in the Mucusless Diet Healing System and Rational Fasting. Ehret says in the book that he does not recommend very long fasts. He says in the book that he doesn't recommend all fruit diet fasting for people that have not been through some kind of transition, have not done detoxification to a certain extent to get their body ready to go to those higher levels of healing and fasting. That is part of the system. That is indeed the art of the system. And this is an aspect that I see way too many people that call themselves raw foodists, call themselves fruitarians, even various levels of veganism, that they totally miss out on the art of the transition. Because when we get into these higher levels of plant-based dieting, we do not want to have to go back. We only want to have to go so far back. And what I've noticed with the art of the transition is you move forward a little bit and then you have some kind of little relapse and you move back a step, but then you take 2 steps forward. Then you might take a step back. But every time you take a step back, it's impossible to go any further back. It's impossible to go back to where you started at. You can only go one step. And that's the difference. And there's a lot of people, such as Steve Jobs, such as this Stanley Bass character, that have totally misinterpreted and misunderstood Ehret's message and totally disregarded his sophisticated transition system. That is the healing system, Mucusless Diet Healing System, mucus-free diet healing system. So it's a transitionary system. Yes, if you are on your deathbed, then you may need to do a more intense detoxification protocol right from the get-go. Or if you are struggling with some very devastating illnesses, you might have to get really busy real quick. And Ehret did a lot of that, in his sanitariums, because he witnessed the sickest of the sick. The people came from all around the world to his sanitarium to find some kind of relief, because the doctors had already basically told them, you're terminal. There's nothing we can do for you. So what do? After checking out all kinds of stuff, they end up at Ehret's sanitarium, and he would put them on, and he would still do transitional protocols. And the key is transitioning with mucus-free foods. And so this is another piece that a lot of the raw foodist community and the fruitarian community miss out on in this whole process is, if you're gonna be raw, then be mucusless and raw. Because when Arnold Ehret does promote raw foodism for people that have earned that physiologically, that have got to that level physiologically, cleaned themselves for long enough, when people get to that level, it's not a bunch of mucus forming foods. It's not a bunch of avocados and a bunch of nuts and seeds and all that kind of stuff. That's out of the equation in terms of if you're going down this road and you're talking about the level of raw foodism that Ehret truly espouses. And I don't see that represented in most of the people that talk about this. Now I'm talking a lot about this because this seems to be a pretty hot button topic. Like I said, so people like Steve Jobs represent the worst, in my opinion, of how you go about cleansing yourself, healing yourself, transitioning with these higher level plant-based systems of healing. He does exactly what you're not supposed to do. From what I read, Steve Jobs basically just, he read the Mucusless Diet book, but again, he must have skipped over the section that said transition diet, and he tried to just get into some really extreme fruit fasting. Now, if you are from the islands, or you have ancestors that maybe your parents or your grandparents were like one-sided one-sided fruit eaters, or ate mostly a plant-based diet, then you might be able to transition much faster than somebody that's coming from a bloodline that hasn't had a plant-based diet in 30 generations. You're talking about a total, and this is what I see missed. I don't see people talking about this level of transition. Everybody just says, well, raw foods, or fruit diet, or vegan diet. And the process of actually transforming yourself that can be sustainable for a lifetime. That's what I'm talking about. Sustain a mucus-free lifestyle, not just for 10 years or 15 years or 20 years, but where that's the lifestyle. And what tends to happen, again, from my research, when I read up on a lot of the folks that have gone too fast into trying to sustain the higher levels, when they fall pretty hard. And then they want to blame the fruit. Then they want to blame the healing foods. And it didn't have nothing to do with the healing foods. They never cleansed themselves. If you haven't gone through weeks where you might be doing some enemas or something, and you have like this black tar coming out of you, if you haven't experienced that yet, you know what I'm saying? You got work to do. And we all have a lot of work to do, and I think we need to be a bit more realistic about our condition, and really understand the tools that we have at our disposal to transition and to cleanse ourselves. So anyway, I don't want to go on too long, but I did want to say a few words on the Steve Jobs thing. And I know Ashton Kutcher made headlines where he, I guess, did a raw. I mean, you see how sick this dude is when he can only go a couple days on fruit, or however long it was, and he had to be rushed to the hospital. And that's a yes. If you have 15 to 20 pounds of uneliminated feces, he's probably never done a cleanse in his life. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, I don't know the guy, but I'm just going from what I see, because if you've cleansed yourself properly, then yes, you can sustain nothing but fruit for longer periods of time, and you will operate better. But with most people, I don't even get to really talking about that until way down the road. That's, and now I know this is one of the areas where I'm different from a lot of other folks out here, because a lot of the other folks don't necessarily emphasize transition as much as I do. But for me, transition is everything. No matter what diet you're coming from or what diet you identify with, you can always use transitionary methodology to enhance your ability to move forward with whatever it is you think you're into. Because, and now some other time I'll get into all the, these isms. We have all these various isms that are problematic. Fruitarianism and veganism and vegetarianism. Half the time they actually never mean what the word implies. Vegetarianism, I always thought that was going to be like vegetables, but no, people want to eat fish and all kinds of stuff that's not vegetable matter. And then you get the vegan, you think, okay, well, they had to invent some word in whatever, 1950, had to invent a word that meant no animal products. And still people find ways to put some strange stuff into that plant-based diet. Fruitarians, a lot of people that want to call themselves fruitarian, but they don't eat nothing but fruit. And if they do eat things that are technically fruits, sometimes a staple fruit are the fat fruits, are the things that actually cause mucus. So anyway, I appreciate you guys listening to me talk a little bit about this. I'm going to do a few more of these kinds of things and see how they go. Just me kind of speaking my mind freely on contemporary topics and issues. Maybe I'll answer some questions if people have some specific questions or something. So hey, I really appreciate it. Hit the subscribe button, the like button, check the box. Got a mailing list now. Subscribe to that, and all of you be well, and I will talk to you soon. Peace, love, and breath.